SF Black Legacy. Let's get into it. So I first want to start with, for all panelists, what are your intentions that you would like to bring forth or to light here in the community today? Who wants to start? Ms. Cohen? All right. What would you like to bring forth to the community? You have a mic. There we go. Oh, there we go.
I'm 80 years old. It says green.
It's on. You just gotta put it close to you.
All right, Miss Billy. Shh. I am 80 years old.
That's right.
I can remember when I began my career in San Francisco Unified in 1970, being the youngest person in the room. And I am happy to say that it's nice now to be 80 years old. Yes. I fell recently, so I want to begin with take falls seriously. I ended up with a brain bleed. So if I make any mistakes here, blame it on a hole in my head. Now, with that having been said, what was the question?
What are your What are your intentions, Ms. Cohen, for the community here today? What would you like to bring forth?
One of the things that I have enjoyed and I'm learning even more to value is joy, is happiness. Where's Brenda? Is love. And I'd like for you to take away from here a sense of wellness, a sense of feeling better than you did when you came.
That's right.
And when you go home feeling better than you did when you left home, you will bring joy and happiness and peace and love to those you find there at home. Yes. So take that away this afternoon.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. We'll go down the line. Ms. Maxwell, what's your intentions for today for the community?
The same as hers. So,
Wisdom.
But I'd also like to give you something to think about. Maybe something that you haven't considered before. Well, she already did. I'm Sophie Maxwell. And so maybe we need something that you hadn't thought about, something that will trigger something else that you said, oh, you know what, that would work with that. So that's what I think, a sense of joy, a sense of family, a sense of laughter, because laughing is so good for you. And you know, you guys, we can start laughing over nothing. You get with some friends and all of a sudden somebody can say, ooh, and you just crack up. Everybody's just on the floor. So I think that's what I'd like to see, and that's what I'd like us to come away with.
Thank you. Mr. Templeton.
Well, I would first want to let people know that they are sitting in a building that was built completely by Black hands. It was actually in 2006. I saw it with my own hand, with my own eyes. So and in fact, I guess it's the only building in San Francisco that I've personally seen built by Black people. So I just don't want that memory to fade away, or the significance of what we can do, and the fact that it is the home to such a strong organization.
All right. Did we know that this building was built by Black hands? No, I didn't know that. All that history. Reverend Lang knew that. Okay. All right, so we're going to go right back to you, Mr. Templeton. You've dedicated your life to documenting Black history in San Francisco. What are some of the most overlooked contributions of Black San Franciscans to the city's development? And how can we ensure these stories are preserved and shared widely?
Well, we haven't done a very good job of it, and Supervisor Maxwell and I have talked about this for decades. Right now, San Francisco County is the 192nd ranked county in the country for Black aggregate income. So, so we need to do something about that.
What do we want to do?
Well, in Brooklyn, we chose a life science strategy. And Brownsville, the neighborhood we served, is the densest black population in the country and the densest concentration of public housing in the world. So we were able to work with the state and the city and get $1 billion investment in Downstate Medical Center, which is a predominantly black medical school. And we've been able to reduce crime in that neighborhood by 80% because we've created a pipeline for people to get jobs in healthcare. So my solution for this community is that we also need to have a life science focus.
All right, thank you. My next question is for all the panelists. How did historical policies such as urban renewal, redlining, and redevelopment impact black neighborhoods in San Francisco? And how do those policies continue to affect communities today? And we can start with either Ms. Cohen or Ms. Maxwell.
Well, I'll start. One of the things that that we're all living with right now is the urban removal of African Americans and their properties in San Francisco. I'm sure many of you remember what happened in the Western Addition, that then happened in the Bayview, Hunters Point, that it didn't happen over in Ingleside. It kind of stopped before it got there. But many of because I came here as a young single woman, but many of you had families that had properties, and it was through the redevelopment program that actually killed our communities, and it's still happening. Over at George Davis yesterday, they had a meeting of people who had the vouchers, the Section 8 vouchers and the certificates of preference, where they think that the system is designed to help families with those certificates of preferences get back into properties. But what we're finding out more and more is that the system thought ahead of us, and what they have done is priced us out of the market before we even got a chance to use those certificates of preference. So you got a piece of paper, but it's worth nothing. Basically you might have been in one of those meetings. Basically what it's saying is you have a piece of paper that puts you ahead of other people in the lottery, and you probably know this better than I do, and that when the lottery machine is turned and your number gets picked, what your piece of paper entitles you to is something smaller than you are coming out of and is far more expensive than it is what you're coming. So they played a game on us. While I have the mic, I sat next to this goes back to the question you asked of John. I sat next to a young 50-year-old bus driver a couple of days ago. And I said to her when she said what she did, I said, oh, do you know the name Welton Flynn? How many people in this room know the name H. Welton Flynn? What a tragedy. H. Welton Flynn ran Muni as the president of the first, it was called the PMC, now it's called the MTA, when Curtis Green, how many of you know Curtis Green? Curtis Green was a general manager. These are black men who were in power when I came to San Francisco. Welton Flynn had been appointed by Shelley, And I said to this young black bus driver, first of all, there's a barn over by 16th Street named after H. Wilson Flynn. There's one out on Ocean Avenue that's named after Curtis Green. These are black men, our contemporaries in San Francisco, and we don't know their names. Sophie, I hope they remember yours.
Supervisor Maxwell?
Well, as I think about what's going on in Potrero Hill, how they are, getting rid of all those projects and putting people in towers, to me that's removal. When they're doing the same thing in Bayview, when they're doing the same thing all over the city. However, if you go up in near Presidio Heights, they have projects that black people used to live in. There's still projects. They just painted them, and white people have moved into them. It's the same thing, and my bike partner and I, we bike up in there. And so one morning, I saw this man, and he was walking his dog, and I said, how you get a project up in here? He said, what? I said, yeah, how you get on the list? I said, because my cousin used to live up in here. And he looked at me like he didn't know where he was. He thought he was really in some place. He's where we all used to be. All in there. So when you talk about removal, it's happening. It is. And so my question then is, what do we do about it? What do we do about it? What are the policies? When we elect people, it's not just about, when they talk about safety, the most unsafe people in San Francisco are young black males. When they talk about safety. So we have to rethink and how we frame things, and how we talk about things, and how we talk about being scared, and who you scared of. You know what I mean? We have to really rethink. And so when I think about policies, we all need to go down to the Planning Commission because we are planned out. All right? And so you need to start, so when people in elections are coming up, you're going to be electing a new supervisor. What does that look like? What does he talk about? What does he know about? And those are some of the things, I think that we all need to consider.
So one of the action steps we're taking right now is we have 5 National Register nominations before the State Historic Preservation Office, and working with Miles Stevens to complete it. These will be the first National Register nominations for black property in the city of San Francisco. So as we improve the value and the marketability of our properties, that helps us to hold on to them. And one of the things that you can do to help is to join our museum. You can go to blackmoney.com, Reunion 25. We're doing nominations for Third Baptist, Bethl, First AME Zion, and Hannibal Lodge #1, and an overall context statement for the entire city. So one of the reasons they've been able to knock things down is because it wasn't protected. And by putting in that protection, we begin to take control of the narrative of our land use.
Thank you so much. So my next question is for Ms. Cohen and for Ms. Maxwell. As community leaders, what role did you and your families and neighborhoods play in shaping the civil rights movement in Black San Francisco?
I was asked a question the other day. Comment was made in a group, and I don't see the young woman who was in that meeting who started the conversation, but it had to do with our ethnicity as black people in San Francisco. How many of us were American Indians? How many of us are Native Americans? Or how many of us were from Louisiana or other places? And so as it relates to your question, one of the jobs that I have that I think responds directly to your question, I happen to be in charge of student assignment for San Francisco Unified when the federal government said we had to identify every child in public schools, racially and ethnically. I had met a woman, no, let me go back. I came to California in 1969 from Louisiana. In 1970, my 70-some-year-old grandmother came to visit me. And I met her at the airport, and she said the next day she wanted me to take her to Clear Lake. And I said, Clear Lake? What do you know about Clear Lake? And she said, Mr. So-and-so in New Roads, Louisiana, told me that our people are on a reservation in Clear Lake. Now, my grandmother had let us know we had Indian in our veins and what have you, but of course we had more black folks than anything. But because she was my grandmother, and she had written down directions from San Francisco to this reservation on Clear Lake. So I trusted what she said. And we went to Clear Lake, found the road that took us on this reservation that was listed on a AAA map back then. And sure enough, there were these 3 trailer homes that we were supposed to look for and go. She was supposed to go in the middle house, because these were her people, my people. She sat in that house for about 3 hours. I thought it was ridiculous, but I'm stupid, you know. But at any rate, my grandmother came out of that house with so much pride in it's about having found some of her people. Fast forward, I am now responsible for identifying children by race and ethnicity in San Francisco. There was a woman whose name I'm sure all of you know, Espanola Jackson. And Espanola Jackson was as proud of her Native American, Mowoccan, I think, heritage as she was of her African heritage. When she brought parents to my office to fill out the forms identifying their children, and they did not want to be listed as black. And I had, with the board's approval, created a category called other non-white. Other non-whites was anybody who wasn't white. It was the category, the only category, that I could put children whose parents said they were Native American but did not have, what's that number? There's a number, there's a tribal number. If you had a tribal number, you were legitimately recognized by the Native American community. But if you didn't have a tribal number and you were saying, per Espanola's guidance, that you were Native American, I went before the school board and said, my own grandmother had taken me to a reservation where the people recognized her as Native American. And therefore, there was no way I was not going to acknowledge what Miss Espanola Jackson was saying, that people could and should be recognized. So, to your question, I was one of the people who allowed more other non-white / black kids who lived in and around neighborhoods that were predominantly black to not be bussed out of their neighborhoods. That, to me, today, is true civil rights activity.
Oh, it's me. Well, my mother, Enola D. Maxwell,
Yes.
yeah, this woman, she was brilliant. She was a little bitty woman, And she didn't eat very much, but she was a dope addict, I have to tell you. She smoked cigarettes and she drank coffee, nicotine and caffeine. But she had something about her that was so special. She was a Presbyterian minister and had a Presbyterian church called Olivet Presbyterian Church down in Potrero Hill. And she had gone to march. She'd gone to the March on Selma with everybody in the world who went. And she had gone to Russia when nobody was supposed to go to Russia. And so my mother came back and she said, Sophie, black people need to travel. They need to see what's going on in the world. Because if they did, they would know their place in the world, their real place in the world. And so during that time that I remember, there was it was very much on the heat of the civil rights movement. We couldn't drive yellow cabs. Now we could buy Cadillacs, but we couldn't sell them. So my mother had me and my brother and my sister, we were dragged down in front of the yellow cab. We were dragged in front of the Cadillac. But it was all about learning and being a part of something. And then I remember when the fire department did not, they didn't like blacks. They had a thing about height so that Chinese firemen could not be firemen. And so the Chinese group, they got together in front of City Hall and they asked my mother if she would come and speak. And so of course my sister and I had to go. And we're sitting there thinking, oh my God, what is she gonna say? What is she gonna? And my mother got up there and said, who do you think puts out fires in China? All right? That's what Enola said. And game over. It was done. Okay. Short and succinct. So there's a school named after my mother, Enola D. Maxwell, and I'll tell you, we never talk about our parents in terms of brilliance. Oh, she was good. No, my mother was brilliant, and your mothers were brilliant. They got us through this. And the hairdressers, the women who did hair in the beauty shops, they got us through this. Civil rights, those were the women. Those were the pioneer women they talk about. Those were the women who got us through. And so when I think about your time in civil rights is always, it never ends. You have to always, one thing about being us, we have to always be aware. We have to be conscious all the time. But when I think about when I was going through all this stuff with this boy being president and all this stuff, I was thinking, every day I'd look at the paper and I would go, oh my God, oh my God. And I said, wait, whoa, Maxwell. Get a grip here. Get a grip. And so what I did is I went inside and I thought about what could get me through. And it was AI. No, not the AI you're thinking about. Ancestral intelligence. And say it with me. Ancestral intelligence. Okay, universal. It comes from down and it's all through you. You're connected. See, the difference between that is you're connected to everything and everyone. You're connected to iron in the ground. You're connected to a bug. You're connected to everything because it's all one in the universe. And therefore, this thing goes all the way through and you always have something to call on. And that's what my mother gave me as well. That's what my mother gave me, and that's what guides me every day with all of the stuff I think of AI and EI, ethnic intelligence. Yeah. My mother said if there are any smart people on the face of this earth, any superior people on the face of this earth, you are a part of that group. Yes. So what do? You can't get uppity, but you just gotta stand up a little straighter. And all of that was about civil rights and about knowing who you are inside and out.
Yes. Hey.
Let me add, first of all, to Enola Maxwell and I are both from Baton Rouge. And one of the things that Enola would do with a younger person at that time, like me, was mentor me. And one of the things that we must do is mentor younger kids now. Because there are few places, and we got a couple of administrators, school administrators in the audience, who know that what they were able to do when they were administrators that's not being done in public schools in Bayview, not just San Francisco, but in Bayview right now. And that's the tragedy, because I think about when Kamala Harris was running and she was saying, we will not go back. Well, unfortunately, the people who put the little boy, you call him, in office, put him in office, and we are going back. But what we can do to not go back so far, and what we can do in order to do something, is to do, that sounds good, is to do what they did. And they, back then, began to mobilize their communities and come together and start the fight that advanced us forward. So what we cannot afford to do now is have pity parties and pray and worry about where we're going to go with this man. We have got to organize. We have got to get together. We have got to try to vote. We have got to try and make certain that we have elected officials who've got guts. And we can think about right here in District 10, Shaman is terming out. And there you know that there are people in the opposition groups who are gearing up to take that position. So as we sit here and thank you for this, and you got to continue this somehow so that we can continue to educate and get people psychologically ready to work. We got to do something.
Yes, thank you.
So,
I was going to say, Mr. Templeton, would you like to add?
sure.
Yeah.
I'd like to put it in the context following up on what Barbara said. In 1960, San Francisco was a conservative Republican town, and the House Un-American Affairs Committee came out here and had a hearing in City Hall. People like Leroy King had to leave the country because of the McCarthy era, and you had organization like Congress of Racial Equality rise up. You had the United San Francisco Freedom Movement that Supervisor Maxwell talked about, and they filled Van Ness Avenue from the top all the way down to the bottom, and desegregated the entire auto industry. But the other thing that happened in 1960 was Dr. Arthur Coleman, who had come out and basically was the family doctor for all of Bayview and Hunters Point. How many people in here were delivered by Dr. Coleman? Okay.
I used to go to the doctor there on 3rd.
Yeah.
Coffee Hill.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Mays Town.
So another building that was built by black folks is the 10 office clinic that Dr. Coleman, Dr. Wesley Johnson built because black doctors didn't have hospital privileges then. So for their community, they built their own medical offices. And not only was Dr. Coleman a medical doctor, but because there was a need for legal advice, he also went and got a law degree. He also was chair of the largest black bank in the country. So, as Supervisor Maxwell talked about how aggravating it is to look at the news now. Just think about what our people faced in 1960, right? And from the Southeast Community Facility to Ruth Williams Opera House, practically all of the things that we enjoy now are the result of those people who faced that challenge. So as we look to the future, and this is one of the primary reasons that I study Black history, not because we need some list of various accomplishments or anything like that, but it's to answer the Mahalia Jackson question. Anybody know what the question is? How I got over. How I got over.
How I got over.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's the reason to
Mahalia
study Black
Jackson.
history. Because there's no reason in logic or odds to think that we succeed. And so the lesson of Black history was talking about Shanell. So just like Dr. Coleman, when I met her 20 years ago, she had no degrees.
City College.
She went through City College,
Of City College.
became president of student union, helped save the campus. Then she became a trustee, City College. Got elected, got more votes than anybody else in the city. Right? Then next time I talked to her, I'm at San Francisco State. Right?
Go Gators.
And
Go
so,
Gators!
so a couple of weeks ago, he said, I'm graduating from the University of San Francisco. I said, wait a minute, I'm still stuck on San Francisco State.
Go Dons!
And so she said, I'm graduating. I said, okay. So she doesn't get 1 degree. She gets 2 degrees. A master's and a law degree. So the answer is in people like Enola Maxwell and Ardith Nichols and Mary Rogers. They were relentless in seeking excellence in advocacy. Because as I did a paper at UCSF on the history of Black doctors in San Francisco, there's only one illness that they treated, is racism. Everything else was a symptom, right? But they were very focused on the fact that the illness they were treating was racism. And so Dr. Goodlett had a medical degree and a PhD in psychology. So the standard for Black leadership is to understand that racism is like a virus. It's mutating, it's changing, and the stuff we did in the 1960s ain't gonna work in 2025. The stuff we did in 2023 ain't gonna work in 2026. So it's that level of hard work that should replace our frustration, because we know that people like Mary Rogers had a 9th grade education and defeated Reagan and Nixon and Alioto and got the Uniform Relocation Act passed in 1971. So that is the pathway that we have to pursue in terms of not just carrying signs, but continually getting smarter and more effective, because that's what's delivered in the past.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists. Still working on that Juris Doctorate. We definitely got the MPA. So this question is for Supervisor Maxwell. What are some policies or legislation that have current impact in San Francisco?
Well, I was just thinking, one is called City Build that I did. And City Build was, and is, it still is going 20 years later, but it was about the city having all these contracts. And one in particular happened when they were rebuilding the 3rd Street Light Rail, and $250 million. And so these young people came in one day. I was in a committee, I was chair of the committee, and they came in, and they got up one by one and said, we are no longer going to be satisfied standing around watching these people come in our community, build this, get money, buy cars, buy houses. We're not going to stand for that anymore. And this was over and over and over again, they said that. And so they said, either we work or we shut it down. That's how City Build started. These young people from Bayview that came in. And so I went to my colleagues and I said, listen, you guys, you heard what's going on. We've got to do something because, you think you need the 3rd Street Light Rail. So, because we knew what the 3rd Street Light Rail was going to do. It was going to divide our community. But anyway, so I said, we're going to have to do something. So we got Laura Lester. And Laura Lester was an African-American woman. And her father had the business. It was a consulting business. And what she did was employment. And so we got Laura Lester in. She came into my office. We had some money from the Transportation Authority, which was the Board of Supervisors. And so she wrote up, and I got all the union people, because we went to Oakland, because they had done the same thing to those young men over there with Cypress Freeway. Remember when the bridge went down? And they said, either we work or nobody works. And so Cypress came, and they had all the unions. So we got all the unions over, and we said, this is what we have to do. So as we sat, and we went through, and Laura wrote something up, we said, okay, so what are we going to call it? Well, let's call it City Build. But we also had those young men in my office with us, looking at how that was going to be. And so that's how City Build was formed. We got $750,000 from the Board of Supervisors, and then I took it to Gavin, and I put it on his desk. And I said, Gavin, this is City Build. And City Build is still going today, 20 years later. But that was from the community, you see, and that's where it starts. So my policies have been policies that, that's why it's long lasting. And of course, the shipyard. And I know there was a lot of controversy over the shipyard, but the problem was, if you have a fester, if something is bubbling up and festering, you've got to fix it, right? You can't allow it to continue doing that. And so that's why we had to do something. We had to stop the festering. And then a lot of things with cancer, because we had one of the highest asthma rates, the highest cancer rates. So we shut down the power plants. And they said, look, that can't be done. San Francisco, you can't have a city like San Francisco and not have in-city generation. It can't be done. Well, community, we said, oh yeah, you're going to figure something out. And so they did. We had to go to FERC, which was the California state. We had to go to the federal government. But we got that shut down. It was people in Bayview and the community. It was all these mothers behind me pushing. I couldn't stop if I wanted to. 3 different mayors. But it happened. And now there's a 2,600 units of housing being built over where it used to be, and where the Petrel power plant used to be. It's called Power Plant. And the first building is going to be 100% affordable. 100% affordable. And so those are the kind of things. And I could go on and on and on, but they're living today. And the air that you breathe is political. We decide how much of whatever is going to be PM10s. So when you think it doesn't matter, yes, the air you breathe is political. The water you drink is political. Everything is. Don't be fooled. That's why you have to be aware, and you have to be aware of who you're voting for. And you have to be a part of that. Nobody left me alone by myself. My community was right there with me. Potrero Hill was right there with me. Viz Valley. We have more pools in District 10 than anywhere else, okay? New pools, new libraries. It's because of the community. And my cards had Mandarin and English and Spanish, because I knew who I was really working for, but you have to work for everybody. And that's what I think is important, and what we have to understand. We have to have groups of people. It cannot be just us. And you know how that goes. If it's just us, we're in pretty bad shape. So we have to bring other people with us. And I think there are more policies and more things, but you know, as people go on, you can find out what they are.
And we have
Yes.
to encourage each other
Yeah.
to use those facilities, because we see white males coming from the Sea Cliff using the swimming pools in Bayview, because the quality of those pools are just that good.
Yeah. And-
so
and
encourage our
also-
community to use them.
Right. Also, the power is with the people. You do have power. If all of you went to the Board of Supervisors on one thing right now, 3 minutes, there are about 25, 30 people here, that would be 3 minutes of the same message 30 times. How many minutes is that? That's why it is important, and it does work. And don't ever let anybody tell you democracy does not work, because it does if it is done right. That's why we got to make sure we keep it.
Yes. All right, give it up. So much knowledge. All right, so this is for all the panelists. In your view, how has the landscape for Black health, housing, education, or economic opportunity evolved in the city? What progress has been made, and what gaps remain? We'll start with you, Ms. Cohen.
There's a woman by the name of Brenda Barrows, and I bring up her name without her permission, who has worked at San Francisco General Hospital for as long as I can remember. And she's a union rep, last I heard. And she would be the person who could tell you how much Black health care has declined in this city. Again, a lot of it started November the 4th, but a lot of it started before that time. So as I think back, and I came to San Francisco with degrees from a Black college and had not had a lot of exposure to Black health, and got here and ran into the West Side Community Mental Health. And that was before Mary Ann Jones. That was back when, there were some men doctors. Yes, all of that group were in charge of what was happening with Black folks' mental health only in the Western Addition, because they had clout with Mount Zion. Now, I think about those many programs, but when I think about what's happening now, we lost Mabel Sheen, who was out here at Southeast Mental Health. So as I think about health equity, health disparities, and Perry, we had the first African-American Health Equities Council. I helped name some folks for that group. And we are losing. And so I hope that with this meeting, we are kick-starting a new movement. I commit to working with you because we are declining and we need to gather up our powers and start the movement, John. We can start the movement right here because health equity, even with Lurie, you know, I told somebody the other day, my jury's still out on Lurie, you know, but as Sophie just said, if we, with these small numbers, go repeatedly, then we can begin to have some impact now, and we can't afford to sit back and wait on somebody else to do it. Because those leaders like Espinola and Enola and Mary Rogers and Welton Flynn and all of them, they're dead. And you better hurry up, because I'm getting close to that too. So, but let's start.
Yes.
Let's start a
Ms.
movement.
Maxwell.
May I just say, it's called collective leadership. Yes. It's collective leadership. That's what we had. That's why those city build and a lot of other things happen, because of collective leadership. And that means whoever has the ball at the time, that's the leader. Mm-hmm. And your elected officials, their job is to give you what you need to make things happen, to give you the resources that you need. That's what their job is. But you have to take on some of that responsibility. I mean, when I look at Black health, who do you think is the most homeless? Who's the biggest homeless population? It's Black. Who's dying more from overdosing on the Black? So when you think about what's going on, it's us, people. It's us. And we have to start with ourselves. I mean, I was just reading this article, and I'm a sugarholic. I was a sugarholic, but I've been doing a lot better, because I read something about ARP, and they were talking about 7 times, it ages you 7 times. It gets in your liver, it gets in all kind of, anything that starts with an OSE, like fructose, and those things you have to be very, very careful of. So we have to start now, and with our young people. And I know we love us some peach cobbler, and I'm one of those people, but we can't have that too often, okay? And we got to start with our children, because it catches up. It catches up. Oh, I actually, out of these 3, I'm the youngest.
She sure is.
Yeah, I'm 75. As 80, what, 1? Anyway, I'm the kid on the block here, and I'm just telling you now that you have to be aware and careful. And Black people in San Francisco are not doing well. We were doing what 70s, 80s. We were at our peak because we were doing stuff. We were changing things. My friends were going to Stanford. We were going to State. We were doing things. We were challenging the system. And these people didn't get to where Black history because they wanted to. We made them do Black history. Right. We demanded Black history because it's American history. And Black culture is American culture. You listen to these people talking about woke. I'm woke, he's woke. I mean, the President of the United States. Now, who is that? That's us. You know they don't say woke. Okay? So our culture is American culture. You go to, in China. These young boys have their pants sagging. Mm-hmm. Now, who is that? They're rapping all over every single culture. That's because of us and who we are. We need to take our place and understand that we are the people. We just are. There's something about us, because if we didn't have this spiritual connection, because our spirit is really, really important. It's the spirit of the world. It really carries everything and so much. Because how did we come out of slavery and be the President of the United States? How did we come out of slavery and still be who we are? And how did white people come out of slavery and still be alive? That's because of us. We did not kill their babies. We did not murder them like people are being murdered in Gaza and the Sudan. They're being murdered and killed. We did not do that. And we've got to think about those things. We've got to think about our spirit. And we got to think about those people. And we got to give them a little something. We got to give them, I think about those children. I have a great-grandchild, and so beautiful. And I think about those children. He looks like a little Indian from India. And I think about those children, and we've got to think about them.
Thank you. Mr. Templeton. Yes.
Well, as we use the history, we need to understand that San Francisco is not only sort of the origin of the academic disciplines of health for equity, but also a hub for Pan-Africanism. I mean, when the United Nations was being formed, the African delegates stayed in homes of black folks in San Francisco because they couldn't stay in hotels. So we have to use the access that we have being in the global hub for bioengineering to be a portal for the 80 countries around the world that have a black majority. So we had the African Union in this week, and we were looking at various opportunities, and they were quite impressed by what we had accomplished and the kind of things that they could do with it. Just formed the African Medicines Agency this week. And so as Shanell and I are talking about how do we make Rafiki the contact point for those African multilateral health agencies to access the research and the resources here. And that's going to allow us to improve our health here, but also have an impact around the world.
All right, thank you so much. Yes. So this is another question, and this is really about imagining the future. So this is for all the panelists. If you could envision a thriving future for Black San Francisco, what would it look like in terms of space, representation, and community power?
Pacific Heights. That's what we would look like, Pacific Heights. Well, whatever, that's what, because you go up there, there's no gates, there's no bars, everything is nice and clean, and nothing's on the street, and you go down to Union Street and there's shopping, and young people are walking up and down and laughing and talking and going to bars and getting drunk and not being picked up by the police. So I say, San Francisco, we have the model. We have the model. It's just that we're taking the brunt so that they can live like that. And that needs to be something that we think about and we talk about. And see, cities should be about creating middle class, not importing it, but creating middle class. The young people that are in our schools, these young people are valuable. They're assets, if they were seen that way, but they're assets. They're seen that way for the criminal justice system, not for the medical system, not for the engineering system. But we need to think about that. We need to walk around as an asset and as valuable people and seeing ourselves as valuable assets for different things. And our children, when we talk to them, we need to talk to them gently. Hey, little asset. Hey, baby. You know, hey, you little valuable thing. Come here. No, be careful, because that child is valuable. Don't treat him any other kind of way, because he's precious. And that's how we need to think. We need to reframe things. And poverty, let's be powerful, not poor. Powerful. A lot of us grew up our mothers, we didn't even know we were poor. We enjoyed beans and rice. We thought, ooh, and biscuits? Man. And everybody had greens in the backyard.
And government cheese.
Well, we didn't have government cheese. I don't know. But, because that was it came later. That came later. But because we had good food. It was quality food. Okay? Yes. And so we need to understand, we didn't know we were poor. why do we wear it now? Why do we wear it? It is not doing us any good. We're still poor. So we need to rethink. We need to reframe, see ourselves as who we are, walk tall. And I may not have it now, but I'm on my way to get some. And you know the secondhand store? We always dressed well. My sister had more cashmere. We didn't know the secondhand store wasn't a place you wanted to be. We didn't know that. Yeah, but So we have to rethink about who we are and what values we have and what poverty is and not have it anymore. My mother said, she was, like I said, Presbyterian minister. She said she told herself if she was going to believe in God, then she could not be poor any longer because she would not be able to do that. So either she had to change how she was living or give up God. So she changed the way she was living. She changed the way she was living. We can change that. We're not supposed to be walking around here free and doing whatever. No, we were supposed to be underground and buried like they did in New York. But we didn't. So you've got something. We've got something really with the universe. We are hooked up. We just need to use it.
All right. Yes.
Let me put some numbers behind that. From 2005 to 2020, there were 145,000 new jobs in San Francisco. Only 1,000 went to African Americans. So what a prosperous black community would look like would be about 40,000 African Americans in the civilian labor force. One of the ways we do that is to have more people in organized labor, because the backbone of the development of the black community from the 1930s through the 70s and 80s was our participation and our leadership in organized labor. So with all the construction going on, with all the infrastructure going on, with all the health care that's happening. For instance, in New York, we've been able to increase the number of black nurses by 30,000 in the last 4 years. And so just in the area of health care, if we can put our folks in those positions, then that's going to give them the income to be able to have a roof over their head, keep educating their children, and to be able to strive further. So it really starts with doubling black employment in the city.
May I just say, I was an electrician, and I worked on the railroad. And the reason why I was also married, and my husband was a teacher, but you know how much they make. And he didn't know, but I was thinking about getting a divorce. And so I knew I had to get myself together. And so I decided to become an electrician because I noticed that when you hired them, they were clean and nice, and they cost a lot of money. And so there was women in non-traditional jobs. So I was able to get in there, and I became an electrician and for the railroad. And I said, Mom, can you see me working for the railroad as an electrician? She said, Sophie, I can see you working as an electrician anywhere and doing anything. So I said, okay, well, so I was the only woman, the only African American, and the rest of them were a whole bunch of big, burly, white males, right, working for the railroad. But when it came time to get a new union rep, who did they choose? Me. I was an electrician. I got my own journeyman. I was a journeyman. I had my license. My father was a contractor. I got my contractor's license. I started doing electrical work on the side. That's how I financed my first campaign. Was from my work doing side work. All right? And that's where City Build came from. That's why I knew. I knew that. So he's absolutely right. And yes, and then they said, so what are you going to do with your first paycheck? You're going to buy houses and lots? And I said, yeah. They meant lots of whorehouses and lots of booze. But hey, I didn't know that, and that's exactly what I did. All right, not the whorehouses and booze, but
think that we have to also consider, though, our numbers. The numbers of African Americans in San Francisco is quite low. And that also, of course, impacts the number of kids we have to train. One of the things we were supposed to cover had to do with intergenerational use. And as I look around the room, I'm seeing mostly those of us who are over 30, 50, 60, 70, whatever. But we have got to use our grandmothers again. If we think about those of us who, I'm from Baton Rouge, I came here in my 20s. So I had a loving, teaching grandmother who was, as I said, the first person come and visit me here. She thought she was going to save me from falling over in the Pacific. But what we have to do is somehow or another mobilize our grandparents. And if we can mobilize our grandparents to work with our little grandchildren. Those teenage boys, it might be kind of late. But if we can take those little children who we are taking to and from kindergarten and the babysitters and what have you, and then we can kind of get in their heads and get them to thinking positive thoughts and being proud of, Emily, I'm looking at you, being proud of being the president of the class in the first grade. By the way, Malia Cohen was a second grader. I'm telling Malia's story. Malia was a second grader at Lawton School and said, I'm going to be the president. And I watched that little girl from a little girl grow up to be. And so that's, I think about Brenda's kid, Dr. Wade. I knew her daughters. I told her, remember, I used to comb your girls' hairs. And when we can get our children and start to motivate them and make them happy about who they can become. And we weren't able to tell our children, you can be president. We told them that, but we didn't have a model. Now we have Obama. So in terms of what we can do and what I envision and where we hope to go, if you've got the relationship, and today was to be a day with takeaways. So let me give you a takeaway. Brenda, sound like you. A takeaway. If there is a child 10 and under, 12 and under, in your sphere of influence, whatever that might be, adopt that child for something positive that you can input in that child's life. Not one time, but for the rest of your life. Let's all find a child under 12 and under, and make that child the beneficiary of what you know and can offer them. It's that old each one, teach one model. So we're going to, today, again, take away a child who you can help, no matter what that child's relationship, your own grandchild, your foster child, your whatever. By the way, another little quick story, and I'm a storyteller. I'm a grandmother's child. I was sitting next to Pat Scott about 19 years ago, and we were concerned about kids like Shanell not having a place to stay once they came out of foster care. And Pat Scott, who was then the director, and you can call and tell I brought up her name, Pat Scott, who was then the director of Booker T. Washington Community Center, hunched me and said, Barbara, I'm going to tear down Booker T and build some housing for those kids.
And she did it.
Pat Scott did it. They took her out of her job after she did it wrongly, but she did it.
The John Burton House
That's
thing.
exactly
All
right.
right. Yes.
At any rate,
And thank you for bringing in the intergenerational traditions and storytelling. So this is going to be our last question before we open it up to the audience. How can we engage, and we talked about this already a bit, how can we engage youth in honoring their roots while empowering them to lead the next chapter of Black San Francisco legacy?
Well, what we've done for the last 8 years is something called Culture Fridays. And we started it with Civic Center Secondary, which is essentially an educational prison because they send the kids there who are expelled and suspended. And so Maurice Harper, who was the principal then, I would go over every Friday. And I said to him, I said, well, why don't we take them over to the African American Art and Culture Complex every Friday? He said, well, what are they going to do? I said, whatever they want. He said, okay. So we started Culture Fridays, and we had the kids working with the resident arts institution there. Attendance went through the roof. Kids were creating all kinds of fantastic projects, and parents were coming in and saying, well, they hadn't been this happy since kindergarten. So we've continued doing it, and it's something that we plan to extend to the whole city as we open the Sargent. And so one of the things that we've had them do is actually do research for the California African American Freedom Trail. And one day when we were over at City Lights Bookstore, students saw a quote by Maya Angelou in the sidewalk, and she said, this is interesting. I would actually go to school for this. And so one of the quick ways that we can address what's not happening in the schools is to really use our cultural institutions on a regular basis to get our kids in the habit of going there.
All right. Ms. Maxwell?
I think, first of all, for us to honor them and to respect them. We always say they don't respect us. Well, let's respect them. And respect our children. Be careful what we say around them. Be careful what we do around them, because they are looking at everything we do. And if they say something, try to do something about it. I was telling you about City Build. Try to do something about it. Be in favor of something that they want, and not scared because they all come together. They can't even have a party because everybody's scared. Well, we should not allow that. If we have to be at that party outside, then we need to be there. We need to support what they do, and they need to feel that. It's not about numbers, because I always tell people, when you are counted, you can be discounted. So I'm very ashamed. When people say how many African Americans, I say I have no idea. How many Jews are there? How many so-and-sos are there? If you allow yourself to be counted, you can be discounted. So it's not about the numbers. It's about the power that you have. So we need to support our young people and realize that they are amazing. They are amazing. Look, their silly stuff is all over the world. And we were talking about rapping. People, one of the rappers in 2018 got a Nobel Prize for a Pulitzer Prize for rapping. So we need to appreciate who they are and what they are. And if we don't like them cussing and saying, and remember our generation, we used to cuss at everything. We're the ones that started everybody cussing. We did. In the 60s and 70s, we started that. So let's not be so about all of that, and smile at them. You can keep walking fast, but smile at them. And I told myself that every young man I see, young black man I see, I'm going to speak to him. Whether he's young or old, I'm going to speak to him. Whether they speak back or not doesn't matter. I'm gonna say, hey, young man, how you doing? And I was at the post office, and this man came in, and he was gray, and, and he said, can I get next to you? I said, no. And he said, what? I said, no, you're too good looking. You're too fine to be next to me, And he said, well, thank you. And I decided that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to speak, and like I said, keep walking fast. But I'm going to speak to them. I don't care what they look like, because there was this one on the corner, he was looking so bad, and he said, hi, Sophie. I said, hi, how you doing? I didn't recognize him, but he knew who I was, and he knew who my mother was. He knew I was Enola D. Maxwell's daughter. And he spoke to me, and I said, from then on, I don't care what they look like. I'm speaking to everybody.
All right.
I
And
speak
I'm smiling
too,
if I can.
and I darling them to death. Hey, darling, how are you doing, sweetheart? Hey, baby.
Yes.
And they eat all of that. No, they eat it all.
They do.
Yeah.
They remember people calling them sweetheart and honey baby and all that.
Grandmother saying darling. Just don't call them my boo.
All right, so closing comments. Would each of you please leave us with words of wisdom, healing, and inspiration? I'm going to start with you, Ms. Cohen.
Dr. Barbara.
I thought last night I had come up with the response to that, but I forgot it. I guess I'd go back to joy and love and peace.
Microphone.
I said I think I would go back to having joy. First of all, being happy. I like me. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm okay because I like me. You might not, but I
We love you
like
too.
me. I have a brother who I absolutely disdain. I have disdain for. I woke up from a brain surgery and a bald head and looked in the mirror and saw him. Karma is something else. I look like that brother that I don't like. But he's still my brother.
Yeah.
And so I don't tell him, don't call me in the morning. I tell him, don't call me before 8, but call me. At any rate, so I want you to love. I want you to like yourself. If you don't like yourself, make the changes in you that will make you like you. Because if you don't like you, how can you expect other people to like you? Okay, so like yourself, be happy about it. Don't let somebody who woke up and had nails for breakfast feed you nails. I don't like oatmeal, so don't eat oatmeal, but you can have a scrambled egg. So those are my words.
Thank you.
I would say, remember that you are hooked up to the universal intelligence and the universal consciousness. And whenever you need to call on that, you've got it. I remember, short story, I was at the board of supervisors, and Gavin was on the board at the time, and Aaron and some other people, and they were going at it. I was the only African American and the only woman. Boy, they were standing up, and the place was full of people. And they were going at it, and I said, universe, give me the words. And all of a sudden, I stood up, and I said, gentlemen, let us be about the people's business. Well, the audience stood up and roared, and what did they have to do? Act like gentlemen. So I'm just telling you, you always have it. It's at your disposal. Ancestral intelligence. It's gotten us through everything we've been through. Ethnic intelligence, what your grandmothers and your mothers and your uncles used to tell you. All of that is right there with you. And you've got it. You've got it. And that's what you tell your children as well. Remind them of that. When they think things are going to go off and they don't know the math test, tell them to center themselves. You'll get it in your time. That's what my father used to tell me. So that's what I would leave you with. AI, ancestral intelligence.
Yes.
I would say that our takeaway coming out of here should be to insist to all of the decision makers that we want to see 10,000 new jobs in the black community, most of them under black-owned businesses by 2026.
All right. All right, all right. Yes, we're going to open it up for.
I want to add one thing. I want everybody in this room, if you do not know the name, and I just forgot it, the young woman out of Houston, Texas. Crockett.
Jasmine Crockett.
Crockett. We don't really have a national leader right now, but we have Jasmine Crockett.
All right.
And so
Yes.
I want everybody, if you don't know Jasmine Crockett and you are not following Jasmine Crockett, Google Jasmine Crockett.
Yes.
She's out of Houston, Texas, and she's in the Congress right now, and she's one sharp crackerjack, and we need to pray for her, we need to follow her, we need to support her, we need to be mentored by her, we need to follow examples of her. Jasmine Crockett, in my opinion, is our today's black leader.
Yes, she's amazing.
And we need to send her money if she's
Yes,
running,
running.
okay? Or even if she isn't, just go online and send her some
Yes.
money. $10, $5.
Jasmine Crockett.
All right. We're going to open it up for 2 questions from the audience.
Good afternoon, everyone. My question is, I love everything we're saying in the theme of Kuji Chagalia, self-determination. I do a lot of advocacy for the African American Parent Advisory Council, and they're the African American Leadership Initiative. And ancestor knowledge is telling me, and I keep telling them, and I hate to comply in advance, let's change our name. Because I feel like we can get more done underground because of the people that's coming for us. So what I'm asking you all, is there anything, not necessarily in that realm, that you all feel we can do underground to get some of this done? Because I'm just ready to go underground. I'm tired. I'm very extroverted. I need some rest. Extroverted rest. I need introverted.
Well, as a subject matter expert on the Underground Railroad, I always ask people, what's the most important word? And they look at me and I said, underground. So our most effective movements have always been not seeking attention. And if you look at the trials that are going on, attention and fame is actually something that works to the detriment of African American leadership. So we used to have Lefty Gordon in the Black Leadership Kitchen Cabinet that met every week, and no particular egos or anything like that, but everybody was on the same page and everybody was able to work in unison. So we have to shift from we learned the wrong lesson from the civil rights movement, and it's partially because of misinformation. We've been taught that Martin Luther King individually won civil rights, but the most effective civil rights campaign in the country was the United San Francisco Freedom Movement. And the leader of that was an 18-year-old named Tracy Sims. And she disappeared in 1964. And I got a chance to interview her for the first time after 50 years. And she was a retired school teacher in Newark, New Jersey with 6 grandkids and that sort of thing. But what was most interesting about her and Obata Shaka and Will Usry and other leaders of the movement, they were still alive. And they had gotten so much impact, got 375 agreements for employment with companies. So we have to really operate through institutions, and that's why it's so important for us to have the National Register nominations for our 173-year-old churches, because it's much more effective to have a stature of what we've already done than to come in and try to litigate every issue, because none of these issues are new, right? And we've defeated all of them before. So we just need to make sure that you're part of some organization. If you don't think it's doing what it should be doing, get involved in it and rise up through the ranks and be part of the leadership. But we have to operate institutionally as opposed to individually. And I'll just make one last reference to Bayview. Bayview was according to the Ford Foundation, the most organized community in the country. They had the Christmas Addicts Clubs. And every block had a captain. And so that's what we've been able to do in this neighborhood, and there's no reason we can't do it again.
Thank you so much for the wonderful conversation and enlightenment from the panel today. I want to ask the question, well, we all know what it looks like, the way this country is going. We all know which way it pretty much seems it's going. But where are the black and brown powerful politicians that have been elected to, well, first I want to say everybody that's brown and black and brown that's elected is not there to help us. I had the privilege of going to AIDS Watch 2025 in Washington, D.C. And we went around talking to congressmen and senators and representatives. And it was such a sad time because nobody seemed to have our interests at heart. People weren't voting for, what do you call it? People weren't voting for legislation that they should have voted for to help, black and brown people and people living with HIV and AIDS. We spoke to Nancy Pelosi, and she gave us a little hope. But I heard you just mention Crockett. Where are all the black, powerful politicians? Because when the old white guard leaves Washington, D.C., the young white guard is already coming in. The Republicans, they're coming in to take over, and I think it's going to be pretty much worse on us. So I just want your opinion. Where are all our black, powerful politicians?
Well, you just caused me to take a deep breath when you say powerful. When you said black, I was about to say, I saw a beautiful video of a powerful little Latifah Simon the other day. Latifah Simon, born and reared in San Francisco, out of Oakland, representing Oakland, and has taken over Barbara Lee's position. But I was wondering where was Latifah as I had begun to really be a supporter of Jasmine. And I was very happy to see Latifah speak out loudly the other day for the first time. So I want to add Latifah's name. And as Sophie just said, having been an elected official, we got to also put our money behind our folks. To that end, I don't know where they are other than the two of them, because I saw Jasmine take down the Senate. Oh, well, she took down the black ones too. That's my point. She took down some black ones. And I've been wondering, where were the Maxine Waters? You know, where were the people who we thought were representing us well? And now that I listen to Jasmine, I realize that they have not been representing us well at all, not compared to Jasmine. But to that end, I want to tell you that I had a conversation, and I won't name names, but I'll tell you the subject. The District 10 position is coming up. And we need, and again, I don't know what the rules are now regarding nonprofits and getting in. She says 3 minutes. That's me or the panel? Oh, Jesus. Okay, so let me just hurry and say, now is the time for us to think about who are we going to put in Sophie's old job? Who's going to represent District 10? So we think about that. Okay.
Well, actually, the Congressional Black Caucus has its highest number ever, up to 70 members, and we have the largest number of black senators ever at 5. So, and when you look around the country, we have 7 African-American attorneys general, 8 lieutenant governors. So the reason that we're having a backlash is actually a compliment to the success that we have had. And where we are missing is that we've advanced politically without advancing economically. So our politicians find themselves out on a limb because we're not in a position to back them financially. So we have to bring that economics and politics into alignment, because as you've been watching the little drama for the last 24 hours, you know, the guy pretty much admitted that he bought the presidency for $300 million. Now, you know, we can address whether that's right, or we could say, well, black folks could put up $300 million if we wanted to. So we have to be prepared to play by whatever rules there are. And one of the things that if we want politicians to do what we want, we need to make sure that we're supporting them. So the visibility of the politicians is a function of our support of them.
Absolutely, and it doesn't take a whole lot of money. If each one of you gave $10 in this room, and you did it on a consistent basis, they could count on you. It's not about how much money. You don't have to get a big job and all that. You can do it on a salary being a housekeeper at a hotel. You be of what you can, and you be consistent, and that makes a difference. Again, it's called collective leadership, and I'd like you to not talk about us. Just stop it. Everybody talks about us. I know we're not the best. Sometimes we don't do things right. Clarence Thomas, and we all know he gets on our last nerve. But for those of us who are doing something, maybe we're not as good as so-and-so, and maybe you don't see. Maxine Waters is as old as we are, and she's been there give her some grace. And stop talking about us. You don't hear them talking about each other. Stop talking about us and give them some, even if they do, that's them. We don't need to talk about, I'm not saying we agree with everything, but just you don't have to keep talking out, every time. She should have gone around that block, but she went around this block. I mean, I know, because you're all loving me now, but hey, when I was up there, you were talking about me. You were talking about me. My friends would call me and I said, girl, I want to hear it because I want to love everybody. I said, so if you tell me, I may not love them, and I want to be able to love them. Because you got to fall in love with people, especially black people and ignorant people. You got to fall in love, because if you don't, it will be rough on you. Like you used to see somebody and say, girl, why do you let him treat you that way? And she would say, because I love him. I love him. And so I decided I was going to fall in love with the process and with black people again, and that's what you need to do. You need to give us some grace, and you need to give us some love, because it's very, very difficult when you go into a room and you're the only person.
That's right.
It's very difficult. but you do it because you got people behind you. You got love behind you. You got somebody that you know so-and-so is going to send you $5. So Miss So-and-so, you got to speak up for her. Even though you don't want to go, you got to go to that meeting. That's what we need to do, okay? And until we do that, stop talking about people. And send in your $5, send in whatever, and stop talking about people. Talk about the issue, not the people.
That's right.
Well,
That's right. All right, all right, all right. Let's give it up for Miss Barbara Cohen, Miss Sophie Maxwell, and John Templeton, Black San Francisco Legacy. I think we should stand up because these are amazing leaders in our community, dropping jewels, giving us this beautiful knowledge and encouragement on our journey to liberation, to healing, for transformational change in our city. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.